Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. This is a video that I've wanted to do for quite some time, and we're going to explore a little bit about silver and how it has changed historically with a day's wage. That's right, a measure of a day's wage. We'll look out through history. But before we do that, let's take a look at silver as a metal itself. You know, if we look at it throughout history, we have seen many different transformations and how it's been used, and especially in the last 100 years, as a use of what I know as a duality metal. It has a dual role. You know, it's been used in everything from photography to electronics to medicinal purposes, and even in ancient history, silver was recognized for its medicinal purposes for sure, but it wasn't used extensively and proven as such until really the 20th century. But it is very fascinating to see how silver has evolved over the years, and really how easy it is right now to acquire it for most of us. The only reason why people don't acquire it nowadays is because it is not the in vogue thing to do. You know, we don't have it as part of our culture anymore as we used to in the past. But nonetheless, it is very easy for those that want to purchase silver. You can just go to a reputable online dealer or a reputable seller on eBay, and you can pick up any amount of silver. And in fact, it comes in so many different forms and styles in regards to bullion, but also in a myriad of different artistic products as well, from poured silver to very uniquely shaped coins. Sovereign nations have commissioned mints to make these very interesting shapes with silver. But nonetheless, it is fascinating how it can be acquired in that manner or form, but the purpose of this video is to measure it based off of a day's wage. For way back when silver was first used as money, back around 700 BC in Lydia, it first took the form of coins that had a measure of gold and silver together, known as electrum. But when they soon figured out and discovered how to separate those metals, then we had coins like this started to be in circulation, and they were of great purity, about 90% purity, as they were being circulated and used as money. And really, it became a time when the Roman Empire took over. We had the Silver Denarius, and this is a later version, but in its early versions, it was about the same composition, about 90%, and it had about a dime's worth of silver in it, less than a tenth of an ounce per se. But as time went on, and is the case with this particular coin, debasement started to take place. In fact, by 300 AD, it was only about 5% silver. So at what point can you measure the value of silver as far as in relation to a day's wage? And really, when you think about that, a day's wage at about a dime's worth of silver, this has about 0.07 ounces of silver in it. But really, we can go ahead and round up. We can round up to about a tenth of an ounce of silver, as represented by this particular round here. A tenth of an ounce of silver would measure about 8 hours worth of work, between 8 and 12 hours worth of work. And it's tough, hard work. And by the most measurable account, that would be measured by essentially a Roman soldier's wage. And a Roman soldier worked between 8 and 12 hours a day of hard labor. And it wasn't just defending Rome and the territories. It was building. It was transporting. It was all kinds of different things involved with work in relation to what a Roman soldier did in the occupied lands of the Roman Empire. And that represented a lot of work, a lot of time and effort. Well, you may ask yourself, well, why so much work for so little silver? Well, at the time, silver was a lot more rare than it is now. And so it was almost as easy to come by. Gold was almost as easy to come by as silver was in those days. And so it was certainly a way to pay people in silver. But nonetheless, it was quite fascinating to see how rare it was in those days, especially in those areas. Well, as time moved on, it became a little easier to accumulate silver, especially when it was mined as a byproduct of gold and other metals that were used. Metals like copper, iron, and the like, and nickel. And so it started to become a little bit more popular to be used as money because it was more available. The fungibility was second to none. It was lighter than gold, so it was very practical a way as an exchange. So nonetheless, as time went on, and we fast forward greatly through history, because all through history, silver was used as money. So we fast forward to a time when the golden age of silver coins was used. That's right. We have things like this peace dollar that was used after all the big political discussions that happened in the late 1890s with relation to silver, such as the Cross of Gold speech by William Jennings Bryan. But nonetheless, there was a time when silver was used and as money here in America. And this dollar has 0.77 ounces of silver in it, which is based off of the Spanish real. So there's a lot of history that goes back with these particular coins, for sure. But nonetheless, we take these coins in effect and we measure it based off of what we know and what a day's wage would be measured in the last year that silver was used as currency in the United States, and that was 1964. And so an hour's wage back then, for the average wage, median wage of all Americans, rich and poor, all put together and averaged out, was about $2.50. And that's what you see before you for an hour's wage. When you take that together with everything, that's about $20. So we stack up $20 here, and we have quite an interesting phenomenon that occurs. This is a day's wage in 1964, an average day's wage here. So let's put all this together here and see what we have for a day's wage in 1964. There you go. That's about 20 ounces. That's about 20 ounces, or $20 worth of silver, not 20 ounces. That's $20 worth of silver right there. And that was used as money. And so you work one day on an average in the United States of America in 1964, and this is what you would be paid. Now, obviously, they had currency back then, too, so most likely people didn't get this much silver, but they could very easily make change and get this. Now, more than likely, it would be half dollars and quarters and dimes, but nonetheless, this just for the sake of space saving, to put it all together here, this is $20 paid in silver at the time. Now, that's about if you take the dimes and the quarters and the half dollars, and you put them together for what $20 is back in that day in 1964, it's about just over 14 ounces of silver here. Remember that number, because that's very important to think about when we're going to look at what the modern equivalent to that is. But there you go. That is fascinating. I think that tells us something about wealth preservation, and also it tells us about how much silver really, in a sense, has been devalued, and I use that term purposely, over time through history, because so much of it was discovered since 1900 and 1800s and in the 1900s. A lot of silver has been discovered and mined, especially since the New World was discovered. In Peru and Mexico, there's been a lot of silver produced, and this is a representation of it. $20 worth of silver, about 14 ounces. All right, let's clear this out, and let's take another measure. let's fast forward again to well beyond the time when silver was used as money or currency. Silver, we recognize silver in this community, and most people and even mints around the world recognize silver as money. It's just not used as currency. And that is a distinction to consider here. Now, this represents a day's wages in the United States of America today. That's right. This pile before you is some silver eagles. And these silver eagles are 1 ounce each, and they represent what a day's wage is today. And that day's wage today here is an average of about $23. And so if you take silver's price, and that's just for the simplicity's sake of $15.50 an ounce, and you multiply that by the average wage. And now keep in mind, $23, most of us think, including myself, that's a lot of money to earn per hour in a day, $23 per hour in a day. And you multiply that all together, based off of $15.50 silver, you're going to get this amount right here. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 ounces of silver here. And that 12 ounces represents about $23 an hour times 8. So $23 an hour times 8 is going to be about $184. And so there you go. So that is representation of a day's wage in the United States of America. There's 12 ounces there, which is less than the what we saw for 1964. 1964, the weight of the silver was about 14 ounces. So in a sense, really, silver has preserved its wealth and preserved its value since the 1960s. And considering that since 1964, a lot more silver has been discovered, it makes you wonder, is silver undervalued? Or is it really just preserving its wealth, considering the duality of how silver is being used in a myriad of different ways, as a commodity, and, of course, how we see it as money, and how it's being stacked by many of us in this community, for sure. But fascinating indeed. So there you have it. So essentially, we went from this for a day's worth of work to that for a day's worth of work. Post your thoughts below, what you think about this scenario and how you measure a day's worth of labor, a day's wages with silver. We'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for watching and encourage you to please rate, comment, and subscribe.